I figured out that recently I figured this out that I hate first episodes in anime. They generally are fucking the worst part of every show. Um, there's a few shows that get it right, but most of the time, first episodes are rubbish. And here's why, in my opinion, here's why. Because first episodes, they gotta do a lot of work. They have to do, they have to set up a reasonable expectation for the world you're in. Like, they have to do all the world building that is necessary to understand what's going on. They have to do all the character building that's necessary to understand what's going on. Because people don't think about this. Like, oh, people talk about character building as if it's more of an artistic choice, but really, building a good character is as much uh, a practical, pragmatic choice to be able to tell a narrative as it is an artistic choice to be able to build an interesting character for its own sake. But if you're watching a show and you have no idea what the character's motivations are, then it's just hard to understand what the fuck is happening. You can't, none of it makes sense. None of it flows together well together because the character seems to be acting completely irrationally, or you don't understand what you're trying to understand, what their goals are, what they're trying to do, what they don't like, who they're friends with, all that sort of stuff. So first episodes don't have any character to work with, so they have to set all that up, and plus all the world stuff and the tone of the general show. They have to give you some sort of expectations. Plus, they're generally trying to give you a hook. This is my hook to get you keep watching the show, because you can't put the hook in the 10th episode because no one's gonna get there if there's no hook in the first episode. So they're trying to do all this shit. Plus, they're trying to tell a compelling narrative in the first episode and actually, have things happen and it not just be boring. And it's just too much. No one ever does it. First episodes are like such a pragmatic thing. You need to just do stuff. You need to tick off all the boxes. You need to set up everything you're going to need to understand the rest of the show. And we all know that that's what they got to do. And yet, shows are so set on pretending that that's not what they're doing, on trying to distract from the fact that they're expositing. I would much rather have a show where the start of the show is just a guy walks onto the screen in live action, talks to the camera, and just explains. I'll give an example. Okay, so let me think of a show I recently watched. Let's take Ryuo no Oshigoto. Right? It's the Shogi Lolly show. If you take that show, the first episode, or at least the first 2/3 of the first episode, are fucking awful. The rest of the show I thought was great, pretty good. I forgot what I gave it, but I'd say it was very enjoyable show. But the first 2/3 of the first episode were fucking awful. Why? Because it's trying to set up all the shit, set up the backstory of the character, who the character is, what their motivations are, not just one character, but multiple characters, the world of shogi, like what's important to someone who plays shogi, what the tone of the show is going to be, and it fails in every single time. The tone is not like the rest of the show at all, and it's not like a clever subversion of the tone or anything, like setting up your expectations of what this show is going to be like and just to purposefully knock it down. It just feels like it was done because they didn't know how to do a good tone, right? Because it doesn't have the rest of the elements that the show has, so it doesn't have the stuff that you use to build tone. It's like if a guy just came onto the fucking thing and said, "All right, here's this guy. He just lost a shogi match. It was very stressful for him, and now he's on his way home." And the show started there. That would have been great. But no, they waste almost the entire first episode doing that, and it's just terrible. It's just rubbish because I had to fast forward through it because it was that boring and shit. I didn't care about any of the characters. Don't put fucking melodrama in your first episode. Don't do it, for God's sake. For God's sake, don't put melodrama in your first episode like fucking Nanoha Strikers, right? Nanoha Strikers. Okay, you've just watched 2 episodes of Nanoha to get here, right? You are very intimately aware. 2 seasons about Nanoha to get here, right? You are very intimately aware of Nanoha and Fate's relationship and the world they inhabit. And instead of using that to your advantage, oh no, we'll just introduce two new characters at the beginning of this first episode, neither of whom we know anything about, and then expect you to be so invested in them by the end that we can put fucking cry bait towards the end of the first episode, and for some reason we expect this to be emotionally work. We expect this to work emotionally, even though we know nothing about these characters. We've spent 5 minutes with them and they haven't even had time to like have a character yet because they're too busy doing this fucking stupid obstacle course that no one gives a shit about, because we don't know what the fucking implications of this obstacle course are, because we don't know who these characters are, because you haven't set them up, because you're too fucking worried about making a first episode that is everything except what it has to be, which is world building and character building and exposition. So let's talk about the 4 best first episodes in anime. And you'll notice that every single show which nails the first episode also happens to be like one of my favourite shows. And these shows are Serial Experiments Lain, Kyokai Senjo no Horizon, Lucky Star, and Take You, all of which are on my top 10 anime. So Lain, the first episode of Lain. Also, all of these episodes, I've watched the first episode many times because it's that good. Especially, well, all of them. But, okay, so Lain, best first episode in anime because it sets up the tone of the show perfectly. It sets up the character of Lain so perfectly through almost entirely visual design and sound design with almost no dialogue in the entire first episode. It sets up this weird mystery. You got the hook. The hook is optional, right? But they did it anyway because they're just that good. They're just like, yeah, here's a suicide, right at the start of the fucking show. If that doesn't give you fucking intrigue, right? And it's like beautifully shot, and it's like nighttime in like downtown Tokyo or whatever, and it's like you've got this like edgy cyberpunk vibe, which is obviously a part of Lane's tone, set up with like the dark suicide vibe, but it's like the girl committing suicide, she's like smiling. Why is she smiling? Why is it like framed kind of like, what's this? Why is everyone freaked out? What's going on? Like it's like a complete non sequitur. Then bam, we switch to just Lain walking down those steps. The famous, one of the best shots in all of anime. Lain walking down those steps of her house when everything's like bright, and you're like, whoa, what is this fucking visual design? And it's just constantly giving you information without ever having to actually tell you. It's the perfect example of a show don't tell. Like when you see this like out there fucking design, when it goes from like the first section of the suicide with the sort of gritty, realistic looking but kind of dreamlike scenery to the first shot of Lain. The first shots of Lain are like really overblown, blown out, like fucking surreal backgrounds, and just Lain as the single thing that is holding the scene together, right? That's immediately telling you that you're seeing things as like a subjective viewpoint from Lain. Like this is her, like a more subjective view of like how she would see the world because she's because she's dissociated from it. That is like the first fucking 10 minutes of the episode, and then as it goes on, there's all these crazy visuals like the shadows, and she looks at her shadow and it's all water, and then the fucking smoke comes out of her fingertips, and it's like it's doing so much with so little. Is great. There was no moment in the first episode where they're like, oh, now go cry because this character we just introduced, her boyfriend broke up with her, some bullshit like that. No one fucking cares, bro. I want to see smoke come out your fingers. Next episode, Lucky Star, episode 1 of Lucky Star, right? One of the best episodes of anime. Why? Because they talk about how to eat a fucking chocolate cornet. How do you eat it? From the top or from the bottom? Who knows? Which way do you do it? I don't know. Which way do you do it? I don't know which way I do it. I never had one before. But I know that when I do have one, eventually in my life, I'm going to be thinking, do I eat this from the top or do I eat this from the bottom? Because that discussion sticks with you. I don't know why. I can't think of any fucking analysis explanation for why Konata talking about how to eat a fucking pastry thing sticks with you, but something about it does. Because it's like, that's the sort of mundane conversation that like you could have, but like you don't have, but you sort of do have. But like only a genius would have that conversation because Konata is a genius. Only someone who is like hyper autistic would think that deeply about which way to eat your pastry and then talk about it with their friends, and everyone sort of takes it serious. Like no one's like, but why the fuck you talking about that? No, because they're all fucking super autistic, and it's great. So you now know, oh, we're dealing with people with autism here. We're dealing with autistic characters here, right? It's building the characters, set up the character, building the world, set up the world, you know. And the music. Everyone knows the fucking song I'm talking about, bitch. 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 Everyone knows the bitch. Everyone knows the fucking bitch. Everyone knows the song I'm talking about, bitch. Everyone knows it from Lucky Star. The song I'm talking about when they're eating the shit. And I'm like, oh. You know what they didn't do in that episode? Do you know what they didn't do in that episode? They didn't try and fucking make you cry for a character you just met. No, they didn't do that. They didn't have any melodrama. You know what they didn't do in that first episode? They didn't have a fucking running in the rain scene in the first episode of the show. You know what they didn't do in that first episode? They didn't introduce, like, one character in a situation that they're almost never in for the rest of the show. They didn't do that. They introduced the whole cast with a fucking... And in a way that is literally what the rest of the show is. It's just them talking about random bullshit. And then the first episode wraps around, and at the end of the first episode they keep talking about it. I gotta be quick, because I'm trying to make this under 15 minutes, because of my challenges, because I'm mentally challenged. Next, Chokai Senjo no Horizon. Horizon is what I said earlier. It is a guy just coming out and explaining to you what happens, except that there's so much shit to explain that it takes up the entire first episode. And, by the way, that is how the book is too. I've read the first... Like, I've read that bit of the book. I haven't finished the book yet because I got distracted with the visual novels, but that is how it is. It's just explaining each character. This is their name. This is, like, a key personality point about them, just so that you can basically remember who they are. It's not really about, like, fleshing out their characters. It's just, like, here's something important about them, right? So that next time they get brought up, you can think back and oh, yeah, that's the guy who is really obsessed with money. Or, oh, that's the guy who's a ninja. You know, that sort of thing. And here's how their magic powers work. Here's their abilities. And that takes up the entire first episode because the cast is like 50 fucking people. And they don't fucking hide it behind some bullshit. I mean, they have some weird contrivance about a PE lesson where they have to chase the teacher, but the show isn't trying to tell you that it's actually important that they catch the teacher. It doesn't have any actual stakes in it yet because it's the first fucking episode. It's just an excuse to have all the characters run past and shout their name out to the camera and say, hi, my name's John and I spin a drumstick and people explode. That's my power. Oh no, I'm not quite powerful enough to catch the teacher. Oh, here's Tori Aoi. And and then at the end of the episode, it's like, oh, he's gonna propose to Horizon tomorrow? What the fuck? Everyone's acting so strange about that. Who the fuck is Horizon? Why is he gonna confess to this Horizon? She's like, what's going on there? What's that? Intrigue, hook. Oh, okay, now I'm interested in the plot, and I know who the characters are. Congratulations, you did everything you need to do in the first episode. I understand the world, and also at the end of the first episode, they just explain the world. Okay, Take You. Take You, the first episode of Take You is the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. It's the funniest shit ever. There's no fucking... No one cares about anything, so they just like, bam, we're doing jokes. And the first episode of Take You, they play tennis. They never play tennis again for like the next 10 seasons. They never play tennis again, even though it's supposed to be a tennis fucking show. They never play fucking tennis because she plays tennis once and she fucking sinks into the ground. And the other girl's like, why are you sinking into the ground? And she's like, I'm just taking a bath. It's the best moment in any media. Oh, why are you sinking into the ground? I'm just taking a bath. That's Take You. And nothing sums up this fucking all of Take You more than fucking sinking into the ground and just being like, yeah, no, I'm just taking a bath right now. I'm just taking a bath in the middle of the fucking earth. I'm just earth bathing right now. I'm just fucking sinking into the ground, taking a fucking bath because I'm fucking sweaty because I've been playing fucking tennis. Fuck this shit. I'm not gonna play fucking tennis anymore. And then they never fucking play tennis anymore, bro. That's fucking Take You.